Hi everyone, I'm Jonathan, a student reporter with Invention Convention Worldwide, and right now I'm at the Henry Ford at Nationals with Invention Education pioneer, Christine Lawlor-King. How's it going?
Good, how are you, Jonathan?
Doing good, doing good. So, being a pioneer, can you tell me a little bit about just your journey in the education, like the invention education space?
Yeah, oh my gosh, it has been such a rewarding and fulfilling journey. I started this in my own classroom, and then I brought it to my entire district, and then I had the opportunity to leave the classroom, which was very sad, but it brought me to this invention convention world in multiple states, and then the national invention convention, so it's something I'm so passionate about.
Awesome, awesome. And so you started in the classroom. Like, have you always been teaching invention education, or was it something before?
Yeah, so I started as a science teacher and then went to STEM and then went into invention. And invention education is the most powerful tool in any teacher's toolbox because it truly reaches all children. So I had disenfranchised students who were just kind of lackadaisical about education, and then I had gifted and talented children, and all of them succeeded with invention education. So it was amazing to see their process and my process from going to just like standard science teaching to STEM and then to invention.
Right, right. So like being a teacher like in science only and then going to invention education, what differences did you see in your students, like in how they engaged, how they learned?
Yeah, great question, because invention education is as real life as it gets. Like in science teaching, which of course I love and I'm passionate about, when you teach the atom for a month, that's not real world. That's not real life. Yes, there are atoms all around us, but kids don't necessarily connect with such abstract concepts that they can't even see. When it came to invention time, everyone was engaged because we were looking into their lives and then identifying problems that their grandmother had or their community had. And everyone was on board for that and engaged and wanted to work through all of the problems that come with invention and the rough spots. Because they knew they were solving a problem that they were passionate about.
That's awesome. And so like being a supporter and teaching them, whenever they would hit a roadblock, whenever they would want to stop, did you have to give them motivation, or was the motivation already there?
That's a great question, because the motivation is there for the most part, although sometimes they get overwhelmed because they are kids and it's easy to shut down when you hit a roadblock. The issue was more with me as an educator. I'm used to solving all of their problems and delivering content and, okay, no, do this. And as an invention educator, the teacher really needs to step back and be more like that coach and that cheerleader and that facilitator and just guide the students. Let them have those rough patches. Let them hit the roadblocks. Have them sit. Give them time to figure it out. And as a teacher, you're just there like, you can do this, and have them ask you questions that then you can help guide them. So those rough patches, they come for every inventor, and as an educator, we need to step back and let them try to work through it and solve it.
I've got you. Wow, that's incredible. And do you have any stories specifically of just a student going through like the invention process and just how they were able to improve through the process?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I have so many, but one really always comes to mind because he was an English language learner, and he was kind of dropped into my class with no support. So he comes into, at that point it was a regular science class, and he wasn't talking. And he was doing some work, but it was average. And I was like, wow, you know, this kid, he's a nice guy, and he's just really not about it, and he's probably struggling because of the language barrier. Then we started to research mosquitoes and all of the problems that they're having, that they cause in humans. And he was from South America. And when we realized we could have an impact on the mosquito population through moving water and not allowing water to be still. So we developed a device that would move water, especially in like rain barrels.
Right.
He became so passionate because he knew he could help his village.
Wow.
He became our salesperson. Like all of a sudden, there was no language barrier. He was so excited and so passionate. And I remember talking to him like at the beginning of the year in science, I didn't even know you could speak, like you never spoke. And he said, yeah, because I didn't care about that. He's like, I care about this, and now I want to go back to my home country and help people reduce the mosquito population.
Wow.
And he was our superstar. He was on display at all of the events we attended, and he would bring people into our booth, and he was amazing.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's a great story.
And like it sounds like invention education, it's not like this one narrow thing. You can apply it to everything.
Absolutely. So we were doing invention as like a whole year project, but we would also, and this was because my teaching changed through invention, we would stop in every topic we were learning about, climate change, microbiology, and we would focus on problems and then start to generate solutions. And then if we had time, we'd go through the whole invention process. But this can be done with any topic that you're learning about, because you just have to start to focus on the problems and then start to think about solutions and then build those prototypes.
Right. And so like with inventing, outside of making stuff, what skills have your students learned through the invention process?
Yep. Definitely the building, the engineering design process. But to me, the most important is to stick with the project, especially when you hit those roadblocks, to project manage. I mean, when we were doing week-long projects in science, you don't need a lot of project management there, but year-long invention processes you need to develop your project management skills. And then my favorite skill they were building was communication and presentation skills, and going out and talking to all of these adults across my state and just having all of these people go, oh my gosh, your kids are so amazing, and I can't believe what they're doing, and how high level their thinking is. And so communication is my favorite part of all this that they're building, and then project management is another one.
Right. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's an awesome process to see kids go through.
For sure. And so if there was a teacher out there who was wondering how they could change their teaching style and they were thinking about invention education, what would you tell them? Oh
my gosh, I would say you have to find out about this. And it is scary at first. I went to my first professional development, and the whole time on invention education, the whole time I was like, I can't do this. My kids, I'm not sure if they can do this. Like, this is really hard stuff. And some of them weren't even coming to school most of the days. So the first step is to getting into a professional development session and having an open mind and understanding, it is different way of teaching. It is different for the kids, but you're going to want to stick through it as a teacher when you see the skills that your kids are building. It's way more inspiring than probably what you're teaching right now. Like, that's how I felt. I was like, I should have been doing this forever. Like, this is amazing. So they've just got to get into a professional development session and then have an open mind about it and try it. Try a little activity here and there, and then it can grow into invention programs where they're going to events and their students are showcasing their work.
Wow. So have any of your students come back after the fact, like after having you as a teacher, and just thank you or talk about their experience in inventing?
Yes, I have to say, so many times we say in education, you never get to see as a teacher like the appreciation, and you never get to see the fruits of your labor. I can't say that because I had so many students thanking me all the time and telling me how special this was. Now many of them are adults in college, in careers. Some of them went into STEM. Some of them are teachers now, and they want to give this to their students. And it is a really incredible feeling when you know you've had that much of an impact on your students. And I'm not sure if I continued to teach, just science and the atom
Yep.
and get out the textbooks, kids, that I would have had the impact that I had on my students
Right.
without this. And I have to say, I just a couple weeks ago ran into, I did not even have her as a student. She was in the school. She recognized me.
Right.
And she said, you know what I remember about you? All of your students loving all of the opportunities that you brought them to all these different things. And that was through Invention. So a student I never even had was talking about the buzz that our Invention program caused in the entire school.
Wow. So even if you don't have a student, it's still like Invention education is still affecting them.
Yeah, it was our whole school. We went to our state capitol. We went to present at Yale University. We went to multiple state competitions, and the whole school would rally around us and be so excited for my inventors and our team. And it was just such a buzz around the school when you do Invention. Again, that is not happening when you're teaching out of a textbook. There's no buzz around that.
Right. So it seems like if you need more school spirit, Invention education is the way to go.
That is it, especially to get kids here.
Right.
This is an amazing school spirit opportunity.
Yes.
Where you know you have a student in your school going to nationals or to their state event, and you fundraise and you host all sorts of fun things, and you make videos for the student congratulating them and wishing them well. So this is really such a community builder, this type of program.
That's awesome. And so you left the classroom and then came to ICW. What was that process like? And being in a different role, how were you able to still support Invention education?
Yeah, so it was a new world because I had been in the classroom for so long. And then I come out and I start to work with Invention conventions. And the one thing that I'm super passionate about, and I have the street cred, so I want to work with teachers. And I want to reduce the barriers to them saying yes to this. Because it's easy to say, no, I can't do this. I have too many things on my plate. So that was something I was super passionate about coming out of the classroom. I wanted teachers to know I was just like you. I sat in my first training session and like whispered in my head, there's no way I can do this. I'm too busy. This is too much. And yet dipped my toes in the water, and then it became such a prideful moment. In like my entire town, we were on our local news constantly. We had never had a local news story that was positive. It was, there were some pretty scary stories that landed up on the news. So here was academic, positive stories that happen. And it just, I want other teachers to know, like, I'm here for you. I can teach you, and then I can support and coach you, and I know what you're going through because I went through it too. So that was an important thing coming out of the classroom, that I wanted to stay close to the teachers.
That's awesome. And it's so cool to hear your perspective on the side of putting on Invention Convention, where I've been and I've participated for 2 years at nationals, 3 years total, and now being a student reporter. Do you have any questions for me on the other side of it?
Yes, I do, because my passion is every child needs Invention education. So my question to you is, how do we do that? How do we inspire kids to want to do this?
I think you hit the nail on the head earlier whenever you said it's all about addressing problems. Everybody's good at complaining, but like whenever we put in the hands of a student, yes, you can complain, but what if you can solve it too? And you give us the tools to be able to go and solve it. We might not get it right the first time. We can pretty much guarantee we're not going to get it right the first time. But the fact that you've given us this framework where we can try, test, see what went wrong, and just keep improving and improving, that's powerful. And so there might be a bit of friction, there might be a bit of pushback at first, like, oh, no, I don't want to do this. But if you can take us through the process and we see like, oh, I made this myself. Like, I have the ability to make something that solves a real problem. Like, I'm not solving the same question in a workbook 20 times. Like, I'm going out into the world, seeing a problem that I have, and I'm solving it. And so I think if you can show us like the real world application and the fact that it's not this lofty high goal that we'll never be able to achieve, that everybody's capable of it, it doesn't matter their background or anything like that. I think if we can communicate that, then I think a lot more students are going to be super, super proactive in seeking out Invention education and wanting to be taught it.
I love that, because it's so important for kids and students to seek this out, because it's getting harder and harder and harder to get into schools and to do this during the school time.
Right.
So we really need our youth to advocate for themselves.
Exactly.
And come to this and then make make wonderful inventions.
Right. And like, instead of just like you said, like learning one subject, math, science, reading, like that's boring. I mean, I went through it and it was boring, but now with invention education, I'm learning about everything at once. I'm writing in my logbook, I'm writing a pitch, so I'm learning public speaking, how to write persuasively. I'm learning the science side, making it work. I'm learning, math, like, it'll cost this money, am I still under budget? Or, I need to think about tolerances, like engineering. All of that, it's combined in one, so it's not like, I'm like, oh man, I have engineering to do. No, it's, I get to invent, I get to pull in.
Exactly.
You pull all of it together, and it's so much better.
Yep. Now, you asked me about skills that I saw in my students. As an inventor, what skills do you think you learned through invention that now you're using now or in your future?
Absolutely. I would say probably the most powerful skill I've learned is just empathy. So from learning about the problem and talking to people experiencing a problem, like I may not experience it, but talking to them, I can say, well, I can see how they would experience, like I could see how they would go through that. Yeah. And so from that, it's helped me not only in creating things, because if I'm in their mindset, it gives me a better idea of, okay, maybe this might work. And that's not the end. I need to go to them and make sure it works for them too. Yeah. But at the same time, I can take that empathy and say, okay, like maybe somebody cuts me off when I'm driving. Like, well, maybe they're having a bad day. Like, like.
Okay, I need to take that as well. Thank you.
Of course, right.
I just don't think it's really bad when that happens.
It just, like, it's really easy to go down that route, but, okay. Exactly, right. So that's one of the greatest skills I've learned, as well as just, like you said, persevering, sticking with something and not giving up. It can be so hard when you hit a roadblock and you don't know where to go, but realizing that I'm not the first person that's hit a roadblock. I'm not the first person that's invented something hard. Yeah. They were able to push through. I've seen what they've done, and I can push through as well. As well as whenever we have classes full of people learning invention education, then we can bounce ideas off of each other. Collaboration. It's been one of the most gratifying, one of the most exciting things that I've been able to do. And so those are skills that I'm always going to carry with me. I'm always going to look for other opinions and talking to people, bouncing ideas off of to get their perspective on my solution and what they think, as well as like put yourself in my shoes, I'll put myself in yours, and let's try and understand each other, and from there solve whatever we can.
What a better world that would be, and we'd be able to tackle so many problems because we have people working together instead of pulling each other apart.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Now you have 3 inventions, right?
Yes.
Which one's your favorite?
Ooh, I've never been asked that one. I've never been asked that one. Wow. I would say, okay, so how I'm gonna choose them. The only thing is, like, there's one that was for the deaf and blind, where it was a facilitator for communication. Yeah. That one's really near and dear to me because that's one of the first ones that I built, and I built it with one of my best friends. And so the fact that we were able to work together, and it was our first invention. We didn't know what we were getting ourselves into at first, and it was really hard, but at the end, having a product that worked, like, it was like, wow, this is so gratifying. Feeling, I'm sure. Exactly. Yeah. And then I also created a prescription pill management system, and so that was the first time that I made something completely alone, especially with tech in it. Like, everything else had been purely physical, apart from the project I worked on with my friend, but this was the full project that I brought from problem all the way to concept to prototype alone. And so being able to do that, it was
special too.
Exactly, right. And so between those two, I have to flip a coin because I couldn't pick between them.
It's like choosing your favorite child. You're really not supposed to, and it is a difficult decision. So now you know what that feels like.
Exactly.
But those are great reasons for loving both of them. Like, you have your first one that you were collaborating with your bestie, and then you have one where you went the whole full invention process and cycle, and that's special too. Yes. All right. On behalf of Invention Convention Worldwide, thank you so much for joining me and Christine. We hope to see you again sometime soon. Bye. Bye, everyone.